Hannah. I'm Katrina.
Hi, Katrina.
Nice to meet you. Thank you for coming in to meet me today. So before we get started, I just want to reiterate a few things that we talked about on the phone. I am a student receiving supervision while I'm working towards my licensure. So just wanted to reiterate that for you. And also this session will be recorded. Is that still okay with you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Awesome. So I did not get to ask you on the phone, have you had prior experience with therapy?
I have.
Okay, can you tell me a little bit about that?
I went once with my mom.
Okay.
We went in for a little bit of family therapy.
Okay.
But within the first few minutes, my mom became angry, and we left.
Okay. And your mom will not be joining us this time?
No.
Okay. Sounds good. So since you've already had therapy, you've already heard a little bit about confidentiality, but I just want to reiterate that this is a safe place. Whatever you say in here will be between me and you. Of course, my supervisor will see this session, so he'll know a little bit about it. I will not share the information with anybody else unless you sign a consent waiver for me. And also, if you portray that you might harm yourself or others, I might have to breach that a little bit.
Okay.
So as long as you understand that, we'll go ahead and continue. So on the phone, you mentioned that you were coming in due to depression. Can you expand upon that a little bit for me?
Yeah, so I've had depression on and off my whole life.
Okay.
It actually runs in my family, along with bipolar, especially among the women. But in the last year or so, I've gotten married and had a baby, and I know that baby blues are common after you've given birth, but my baby is 3 months old and colicky, and I feel like my depression is getting worse, not better.
Now, does your husband know about your history with depression and also your current feelings?
He does, but I think he tries to help out a little bit. I mean, he has changed diapers. He does his part to hold the baby and take his turn bouncing her and rocking her and driving with her. But he doesn't help out with anything else, and I think he feels like I should be able to handle this. I mean, this is what women do, right? I mean, we're mothers, and what kind of mother can't even comfort her own baby?
So he seems to have a bit more of a traditional value set in the way that he views y'all's relationship. What about your values? Are they the same? Do they conflict? Can you tell me about that a little bit?
I would say I'm much more progressive than he is. I feel that he should be doing more to help with the cleanup of the house, with laundry. He does the grocery shopping, but I do the cooking. I do all the cleaning around the house, and I'm the primary caregiver for the baby. I do the feedings. I'm usually the one doing the changes. He helps when he gets home.
Mm-hmm.
And he shares in the lost sleep. but I don't think that he's very sympathetic to my still being a student and still having work to do outside of housework and being a mom.
Okay, so does he work full-time?
He does not.
He does not. Does he have any sort of job at all, part-time? What does his schedule look like?
He is a full-time student.
As well, okay.
But he goes to his classes about half the time.
Okay. Who watches the baby while both you and he are at school, so giving the family support that helps out?
I do. My mom has been a lifesaver. She steps in to watch the baby while while I'm at school, he and I try to plan our classes around each other so that one of us can always kind of be home.
Okay.
But there are times when that hasn't been possible, and during those times, my mom kind of steps in to bridge the gap. She also, we talk on a daily basis. She comes by multiple times every week and helps out with the housework and with the baby, just to kind of give me a break.
That's awesome. It's really good to have that good support with you. I kind of want to backtrack to your husband. How's y'all's relationship besides the baby? Would you say that it works well? Do y'all have a good relationship with each other? Can you talk and cooperate with each other?
And maybe it's because we've only really been married a year. Maybe it's because we've only really known each other a year. But we're still learning about each other, and I don't feel like he likes what he learns. I feel like as we're learning about each other, we're finding more and more things that we don't like about one another, and I feel like I try harder to kind of understand where he's coming from and to understand his thinking, and to be the wife that he wanted, and that he just kind of expects me to contour around him without doing his part to be a little flexible.
It's a lot of pressure upon yourself to feel like you're not who your significant other wants you to be. I bet that's really stressful for you.
It is.
How do you, when these feelings come up, how do you cope with that?
I don't have time to. Between being a full-time student and then a full-time mom, and then having that house to take care of, and being a new wife, I don't have time to worry about how I feel. I would not even be in therapy right now, except that my depression has gotten to the point where I feel like my baby would be better off without me, because I can't be what she needs me to be. I don't know what I'm doing, and I can't make her stop crying.
That's a lot to feel as a new mother. I'm really sorry you feel that way. So it sounds to me as though you don't have a lot of time for yourself. You are constantly dealing with the baby, being a student, and you're having a lot of struggles with balancing both life as a student and life at home with your husband and with the baby. Does that sound about what you're saying?
Yeah, definitely.
And that's probably contributing to the flare-up of the depressed feelings. So now that we have a little bit of a snippet of our problem, I kind of want to get some more broad information about your family. It might not seem like relevant questions, but it'll help me get a bigger picture of what's going on here. So do you mind if we switch gears a little bit?
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, so previously in our conversation, you mentioned that bipolar and depression run in your family, especially for women.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the mental health history of your families and specifics?
The women in my family are givers. That's just a characteristic that they all share. And the men are takers. The men also love women too much.
Okay.
And their infidelity has tended to exacerbate depression in in the women, there have been, with my own parents, there were times when, my mom would stop eating. I mean, for days she wouldn't eat, and I would, be 7 years old, trying to, force food into her, or picking her up off the ground, and she tried to kill herself 3 times by the time I was 7. So I mean, there's this long pattern of giving to the detriment of the self and the women in my family, and of men who don't appreciate the women in their lives.
Now you keep saying women and men. Who do you constitute as the women in your life when you speak about these problems? Is it just you and your mom, or is there siblings, aunts, grandmothers?
So I'm an only child, but the same pattern has existed. It's in my aunts with their relationships, even with my grandmother and her mother before her.
And how about the men?
All of their husbands.
All of their husbands.
All of them.
Well, I feel like we've gotten a lot of information out today, and I can see why you are feeling the way you are, and I feel like we have a lot to accomplish over the next couple sessions. If you're willing to come back and talk with me, I feel like that would be a really good first step for you, is to have someone to listen, because it sounds like you don't have a lot of people at home who are there to listen besides your mom, which is great that you have her. So I think our next step would be to schedule another session, maybe in the next week or so. And also, you have my office number, and I want you to feel free to call if you feel those feelings coming up and they just get a little overwhelming. Also, I think it would be beneficial if you would start to keep a journal to document those feelings when they come up, and what's happening specifically, and how you're feeling and how you want to deal with those. And we can talk about setting goals and what we want to accomplish for the next couple of meetings as we get more information and background stuff. So how does that sound?
Yes, that sounds good.
Thank you so much for coming in today, and we will see you soon.
Thank you.